All right, welcome to another Colorado opponent preview, and please be joined by Matt Murschel. Did I say that right?
Yes, that's
Okay, I
correct.
was worried about butchering it, but you cover UCF for the Orlando Sentinel, and I've done so for a long time. I know second year as a beat writer, but you said you've been with the paper for a long time, so you've seen a lot of the ups and downs with UCF, and some of the ups and the downs have been extreme. But they've one thing that struck me, Matt, and we'll get into this that in looking at UCF a few weeks ago is like, um, everybody remembers the years that they were really good, and that they claimed the national title and all that. But you look at it and say, man, they're pretty consistently good. I mean, I don't think they get enough credit for. I mean, last year at 6-7 was a down year for them, and they still went to a bowl game, but they're consistently good.
Yeah, they've been really kind of consistently good since 2017. That's really when they started to kind of get things rolling. That's when they went, the year later they went to the Peach Bowl and they went undefeated and they beat, ironically Gus Malzahn's Auburn Tigers to win the Peach Bowl. And then the next year they went to the Fiesta Bowl and lost to LSU and Joe Burrow. And since then they've really had a pretty consistent level of success. And last year was kind of one of those kind of strange years. I think it took a little bit of adjustment for this program to make the leap from the American, to a Power Five conference and the Big 12. They went through that weird 5-game losing streak in
Mm-hmm.
the middle of the year where they just, they couldn't finish games. They were either, tied or leading a game going into the second half, and then they fell flat. They kind of ran out of steam. I think some of that is, again, the adjustment with physically and physicality of a power conference, and I think also to the idea of they just didn't have enough depth. They had injuries and some
Yeah.
depth, and they lost their quarterback, 3 games into the season, and that kind of took some adjustment as well. But yeah, I mean, last year was just, and that's why Gus Malzahn has said after the last year, it was a disappointment, and they felt like they needed to do some things in the off season to make some adjustments to get ready for year two because they felt like they didn't want to have a season like last year again. They want to make sure they get back to where they have that success.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that they made that adjustment better than their peers who also jumped into the Big 12. I mean, Cincinnati had a rough year, BYU, had a down year. Houston was not great last year, and so they handled it better. And that to me, I know UCF fans look at it and that's a disappointment, and Gus looks at it that way, but I look at it and say, all right. I mean, they're ready to be in a Power Four conference because you still made a bowl game, with that. And so that's what impressed me about it was that they're just consistently, good. And Gus, I didn't realize this, following college football, but I didn't realize that was his first losing season as a head coach. He still
Yeah.
got to a bowl game. So, um, it's what he's done there. I think has been, I don't want to say remarkable, but he's done a really nice job there.
Yeah, and I think part of the reason that Terry Mahaja, the athletic director, UCF athletic director, brought him board was he had that power for experience. He had been in the SEC. He knew success. Obviously, been part of a team that won a national championship. And so when he got here, I think he kind of took that mentality, that SEC mentality, to the program and said,
Mhm.
we're not just a group of five school. We're going to do everything we can to be a power program, and eventually that was going to help them get to the Big 12, which it did. And so I think the way they've recruited, the way they've done their transfer portal, I think all those things in mind have been with the idea of we're going to be in a power conference. And so last year, I think you're right. I think they did a lot better than the other schools. I think they came in with the idea that, okay, we understand exactly what we need to do. I think the thing that really hurt them the most last year, and Gus even has admitted this, is that they really thought going into the Big 12 was going to be a passing conference. They looked in the past and said, listen, this is
Yeah.
a conference that, developed some outstanding quarterbacks. They're going to throw the ball downfield. We've got to adjust for that. So they did a great job, with their passing defense. It was the run defense where they were really bad. And of course, what happens is the Big 12 has like 5, 6, 7, 8, 1,000-yard rushers last year, and they struggled. They couldn't stop anyone on the ground game, and I think that was the biggest maybe misnomer that Gus took into going into the first year of the Big 12. And so they've tried to make those changes in the offseason to maybe help them out so that maybe they can find a way to combat that. But you're right. I mean, they did much better than everyone else that came in. And I think that was a testament to what Gus brought in his message.
Yeah, and UCF had one of those best running backs as well, one of those good running backs. You talked about he doesn't want that to happen again. They made a lot of changes, and Colorado gets a lot of attention for its transfer portal activity, which is more than anybody else. but UCF, had quite a bit as well. At least on 24/7 Sports, when I looked at it, I think it was 27 out, 27 in. I don't know if that sounds accurate, but it was a lot in and out, right?
Oh yeah, it was very much so. And I think Gus has mentioned this the other day. There was 40 newcomers when you add in the freshmen coming in. I mean,
Mhm.
that's a lot when you think about transforming a roster, And I think one of the things they focused on through the portal was they wanted to bring in experienced guys. They wanted to bring in guys that were either, in their final years or had maybe 2 years left, and guys that they felt like either were starting experience, so they could just kind of fit right in. They didn't have to really kind of work on developing these guys. They didn't really have to feel like they had to do much with them. And I think they did that. They brought in an experienced quarterback in KJ Jefferson, from Arkansas, a guy who could step right in, knows exactly what you need to do to win at the highest level. He's very familiar with Gus, and he actually, likes his hero was Cam Newton. So one of the reasons why he came to UCF was he talked to Gus about, man, you did, look what you did to Cam Newton. I want you to kind of do that to me. So he wants to have that kind of experience. So that was one of the guys they brought in. They brought in several different receivers. They brought in a lot of defensive players. They brought in guys that they feel like give them the depth now that if a guy goes down hurt or needs to miss a half or whatever, they're not going to be crippled by that. They can have a guy just pop right in and be able to handle that as well. And so, I mean, this is a program that, brought in, had 1,400-yard rusher and RJ Harvey coming back, and then went out and got Penny Boone, another 1,400-yard rusher who was at Toledo and Louisville. They brought him in as well. I mean, they've really kind of stacked the box. I think they really felt like they wanted to make sure they had enough pieces that they didn't run into these situations like they had last year. And I think that's one of the things that's going to be huge for them. And then recruiting wise, they also brought in one of their best recruiting classes. So they brought in a lot of talented young players
Mhm.
that they feel like can step in right away. A lot of those guys were early enrollees, so they've already been through spring camp. They've already been through the weightlifting system. They understand what they're going to be required to do. So I think that's going to be a big help for them.
Yeah, speaking of that offense, I'm curious, what they're going to look like because KJ Jefferson, is a big, it's an upgraded quarterback, and it's a big name at quarterback. He can certainly spin it, but then you have the two 1,400-yard rushers. So, what kind of offense are they going to be? Is it going to be balanced? Do you think, and or are they going to be run heavy with Boone and Harvey?
I think what they'll probably do is it'll be an offense that's been predicated on the run. I think they'll run
Mhm.
the football early on. I mean, I think they want to do that. I think they want to give Harvey a lot of carries. Harvey basically transformed his body in the offseason to be bigger, stronger, faster. So he wanted to build his stamina. He expects to get the ball a lot. And they have a
Mhm.
lot of other guys that can do that. But I also think Gus has mentioned this. We're not just going to run the ball all the time. He said, we got a quarterback who can throw the balls, like you mentioned, to spin it. We've got some talented wide receivers. We've got talented tight ends. He'd like to see this offense really be able to kind of open up the passing game
Mhm.
downfield with the run game. Feels like if they can run the football, that's great. But then we're also going to throw it deep. We're also going to take our shots downfield. That was one of the things the first year Gus got here. They didn't do that very well. They weren't very much of a deep passing team, and it kind of hurt them
Right.
at times because defenses were able to stack the box and really kind of limit what they could do. Now he brought in Darren Henshaw a couple of years ago. He's the quarterbacks coach. His job was to kind of open up the passing game a little bit, and that's what they looked up forward to doing this year. So I think it's going to be kind of a mix. One thing I think is very interesting about this offense is, everyone keeps talking about KJ Jefferson being a runner. And he said, listen, I understand that. I run the ball. I'm a big guy. He said, but I want people to know me as a quarterback. I want them to
Yeah.
understand I can throw the ball. I can read defenses. I'm going to be able to make the plays. And I think he's excited this idea of I don't have to carry this offense. I've got so many guys around me that I can get the ball to. All I have to do is make sure I don't turn it over, and they're going to be able to take advantage of those situations.
Well, and I'm sure too, he probably thinks I got 2,800 yards behind me. I don't need to run it myself.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He told us what funny story. He told us that every time he runs, his mom always sends him a text saying, "Oh my gosh, what are you doing?" Like because she wants to take him to take care of himself. And he said, "Listen, I'm going to run. It's not going to like I'm not going to run." But he said, "I
Yeah.
don't want to get to the point where I feel like I have to run all the time." And it really doesn't need to do that. Not in this offense. I mean, yes, the offensive line has got some new pieces, but they return a lot of talent and a lot of experience from the group the last couple of years. So
Yeah.
he's going to have more than enough to kind of work on. That's not going to require him to be the only guy to do it all.
Yeah, and defensively, I know they've made some upgrades. It feels like they took half of Cincinnati's roster, and plucked them into their spots. But what do you think about the defensive additions they've had? I mean, do you think they're better defensively? And I don't have it in front of me, but a lot of those Cincinnati guys were DBs, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think they did get better. I think one of the things they made, one of the moves they made that didn't go from the transfer portal was they brought in Ted Roof to run their
Mhm.
defense, and Ted Roof has built his reputation on run stopping defenses. That's what he did at Oklahoma. That's what he did a couple times years before that. He's worked with Gus. He's very familiar with him. So he comes in here and his first goal is we got to stop the run. He said, if we stop the run, our defense is going to be a lot better and we're going to be able to stop some teams, and that's going to be great. So they got a good defensive line up front. And some of those guys are returners. Got Lee Hunter, Malachi Lawrence, Ricky Barber, guys who have got experience who've been there before. The linebacker core is all brand new. It's all fresh. They brought in transfers. They got some Ethan Barr, who was a captain at Vanderbilt. He comes in, and you mentioned the Cincinnati guys. One of those guys is Deshaun Pace, and he's kind of this versatile hybrid back where he could play linebacker, he could play defensive back, he can do pretty much anywhere you need him. He's ready to go that. So he's a guy that's going to be a key part of that middle of the defense. And then the secondary has a lot of pieces. Some guys that they have coming back. They had guys that they brought in through the portal. They feel like that's going to be a huge key for them because, again, if they have trouble stopping the run, it's going to be the secondary guys that are going to have to step up and make some of those tackles.
Yeah, and you mentioned new defense coordinator. They also have a new offensive coordinator. Does that make as much of a difference, or is Gus the play caller there anyway?
No, not so much. So Gus said last year he wasn't going to do play calling duties. He gave those duties off, and then in the middle of the season he kind of admitted, I didn't like how things were going, so I kind of secretly took back the play calling duties. Yeah. We all kind of knew that was going on. I mean, as much as he was kind of active, but this year it's his offense. He is running the offense. He's the play caller. Tim Harris Jr. comes back. He was the running backs coach a few years back, and he really wanted to return and work under Gus. So Gus brought him back and made him the offensive coordinator. And really, Tim's job is to kind of sit down with Gus and kind of work some things out. Those two are really kind of the brains behind it. But Gus has said to me several times, I am the guy running the offense. I'm calling the plays. There isn't going to play by committee thing. It's going to be me calling the plays. He's very familiar with that. He wants to do that. In fact, when he took the UCF job, he told everyone, I'm going to be calling the plays. I'm not giving up these play calling duties. The only reason he really did it was because he felt like he had to spend a little bit more time working with the NIL collective, working in the transfer portal. He really felt like he had to kind of expand his role, almost took on that like NFL GM type role. And it didn't work for him. He just felt like at the time, listen, it's not working for me. I need to get back to doing the play calls.
Yeah. Are they better when he's doing it? Do you think?
Yeah, I think they are. I think they are. I don't think it's not a shot at anybody because everyone who's on the staff last year, basically got moved around. But it's just the fact that Gus has his kind of his own system and he understands what he wants to do. And I think when they got to that 5-game losing streak, he just saw things that the offense wasn't doing that he really wanted them to do. And it's tough when that's what you've done your whole life. When you're a high school coach like he was, and you were calling the plays as a high school coach, all of a sudden to give it to someone else, it's very difficult. And he told me a couple months ago, we had a one-on-one sit down, and he said, listen, it pained me to watch sometimes. And I just felt like, okay, I got to come back in there and do that. Also, part of that is the fact that his wife had a serious medical issue, and she was kind of dealing with that. And so he wanted to spend some time with her and wanted to not be so tied down. And after she got better, she told him, listen, you got to get out there and do what you do, because you're going to be, that's only going to make you happy. And so he's done that. And I think they're going to be much better with that. I think having Tim there as kind of a sounding board will also help things as well.
He was probably driving her crazy as well when he wasn't calling plays. So
yeah, so he was, but he admits, it was difficult, because again, as any coach, especially when you've been doing this for so long, it's hard to give up the reins of everything. But he also felt like, listen, NIL was an important piece of what they're trying to do. They had to really build up their collective, especially moving from a group of 5 conference to a power conference. NIL was very important for them. So he spent a lot of time out and about doing these events, trying to make sure that they were raising money for that, and felt like, they had to be a big part of that. So now that they feel like the collective is in really good hands, he feels like he doesn't necessarily be there all the time to make sure see what's going on.
Yeah. So wrapping things up, I mean, what do you think of this team? When I look at it, I think everybody's looking at like a Utah, Kansas State, Oklahoma State as maybe the front runners, the top candidates to win this conference. Maybe throw in Arizona and there are Kansas. And I admit when I did my initial poll, it was quick. It's like, oh boy, this is due, and I didn't know, I hadn't done my deep dives on teams yet, and I don't know where I had UCF, but it was lower than what I probably would have had them. When I did the deep dive, I was like, man, this UCF team, I think, is a sleeper. I think they're a contender that's not being talked about enough in this conference. What do you think? I mean, would you agree with that they're a better contender for this conference title than maybe they're being talked about?
Yeah, I would. I mean, I know they had them. Everyone had them picked what, eighth, in the Big
Yeah,
12 preseason poll. I had them up in the top five. I mean, I do think they're going to be right there. I mean, some things have to kind of work for them. I mean, their schedule's a lot easier than it was last year. They traveled
yeah,
17,000 miles last year. It was a really difficult schedule. The schedule's much easier, but then you look at the schedule and they do have some challenges. I think going to TCU is for their opener, for their Big 12 opener is going to be a challenge. Obviously, on the road, they struggled on the road last year. I think Iowa State on the road is going to be a challenger for them as well.
hmm,
Utah, obviously, at the Black Friday is going to be a huge game for them. And then there's a West Virginia game on the road. So and then you got Colorado. I mean, Colorado coming into town. What's interesting about the Colorado game is there's a bye week before it. They get Colorado, and then they go to Florida the next week. And the Florida game is a huge game in this state for UCF fans. They see that
yeah,
as the big. They want to see what's going on, but they also understand, hey, we got Colorado coming. So I think there's one of those things where they have to make sure they don't kind of look over Colorado, to Florida. So I think there are opportunities. I think if they stay healthy and everything kind of locks in right, I think they can be right in that mix. But if things happen like last year where they lose a guy
hmm,
here or there and they start to struggle a little bit, again, I still think an 8-win season is not out of the question. I think they get to 9 depending on what happens. So
yeah.
I have them kind of in that mix rather than maybe at the bottom or anything like that.
Yeah, and that CU game's gonna be interesting too because Deion Sanders is a Floridian.
Yeah.
He's made no bones about the fact he loves his home state.
Mhm.
He's been bringing in a lot of guys from there. I imagine that it's certainly not going to be as high as UCF, but the Colorado contingent and the
Mhm.
Colorado fans there, there might be a lot of them there. So it'll be interesting. But UCF has traditionally been very good at home as well. So it's going to be interesting. One last thing I want to ask you because this is a road game and Colorado fans will be traveling down there. We know Orlando, Disney World, all that. Um, anything you would recommend for CU fans who might be traveling down there to either do or a place to eat, something like that, or what the game day atmosphere is like for them to expect?
Well, it's going to be a great atmosphere, and I will say this: if you get tickets to the stadium, there's a reason it's called the Bounce House, and I always
Mhm.
warn people about this because when the fans get jumping up and down, that place shakes. It
Yeah.
physically shakes. And if you're in the press box like I am, if you've been used to it by now, but you'll feel the whole thing shake, and it gets. I've seen visiting media members get a little bit panicked, because they think that this, but that's something to just kind of they
You're gonna
do.
watch me this year and say, "Oh, is Brian gonna get scared here?"
Yeah, I mean, I've done the thing where you put like a water bottle down on your desk and
Yeah.
you'll see it shake, like in the old Jurassic Park movie, where like, you see everything
Yeah.
moving on. So I mean, that's one thing. And it's a great atmosphere.
Mhm.
It's an atmosphere I think. Well, they'll love having opposing fans there. It's not. I wouldn't call it any sort of you know um, negativity towards that. I mean, I think there's a lot of good tailgating atmosphere. If you come, yes, you could go to the amusement parks if you come a little early. If you want to do that, that's fine. Make sure you give yourself time to do that because it's obviously travels a little bit around there. It can be a little
Yeah.
congested. Winter Park area is a nice little area to eat if you want to stay away from the attractions. Lots of little shops and local places like that. Great place to eat. Also around the UCF campus, there's also lots of good food around there as well that you can find, and people like to go there. There's hotels around there as well if you people want to
Yeah.
stay nearby the stadium. But yeah, it's a good little, like I said, it's community when you think about it, and I think a lot of people love those game days.
Well, I think this is one of those games that CU fans are excited about with the new conferences going somewhere new. Never been to Central Florida, so let's go check out this place. So that's exciting. Well, Matt, I appreciate it very much, and wish you a lot of luck in your coverage this year. And we'll see you down in Orlando. I guess it's only a couple months away, so I'll see you down there.
Yeah, isn't it shocking? I looked at the calendar the other day and went, yeah, it's just right around the corner. We're about ready to start it all off. So we'll see you when you guys get down here.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt. I appreciate it.
Thank you.